Welcome to our posts. Today, we will see stories of r/malicious compliance. Boss told me how to organize my tools. I have been a mechanic for nearly 15 years. I am the lead tech in my shop, and my company just sold recently to a different corporation, and with that came a new boss. A little bit of history about new boss. He is 22 and the son of one of my older bosses, so everybody suspects a bit of nepotism at play. The older boss was ruthless and a jerk, and really put a dent in my confidence about being a mechanic, so I may hold somewhat of a grudge against the family. But I try to do my best to move on and just do my job. The new boss and I have had some minor issues already in the 3 months he has been here. But I'm the type of person who can generally put my feelings to the side if the money keeps ending up on my paycheck. Today, however, that changed. I will admit I am not the most organized person. I have ADHD and at 33 years old, am still learning to function without the medicine that I weaned off of at 26. My toolbox is normally cluttered, but I keep all my tools in my area or on top of my box. It's the system that works for me. This morning I clocked in and was about to unlock my box when the new boss came up to me and said, "You will not be working on cars today until your box is organized." I said, "My box is organized in the way that it works for me." He shot back with, "Not good enough for me or the company. I need to be able to find tools when I need them, and it needs to look neat and orderly for when corporate comes through." I paused for a second and said, "So you are telling me that you need to be able to find my tools that I have purchased when you need to use them?" "I don't remember signing that agreement." He nodded and muttered something about insubordination and that he would be passing off all the work to the other technician until it was completed to his satisfaction. I had assumed he was bluffing until 3 cars came in, and all 3 tickets were handed to the other tech. I don't have any problem being told to clean up, and I would have even done it his way. But I had a problem with his tone, and this was messing with my paycheck. So while he was in the back doing tire inventory, I opened the top drawer of my toolbox, spread my arms, and swept every single thing into the drawer that I could. I repeated for the second and third drawer until the top was clean. I used the same process for both of my smaller carts until each one could be closed and locked. Then I clocked out for lunch. I am currently sitting in my car in the parking lot eating lunch and browsing job listings while watching him try to open all of my drawers to use my tools, because 3 more cars came in and the other tech can't handle 6 at a time. TLDR, my boss withheld work to make me organize my tools his way, so now I'm withholding my tools completely. Update, I did not expect this to blow up like this lol. I clocked back in from lunch and boss asked to speak with me. Apparently he called the district manager and also his dad, who is a district manager of another district, for advice, and it sounds like they both told him to make it right, and that he could not afford to lose me. I know how it sounds, but it's true. He told me that he just wanted to make a good impression on corporate, who would be coming through in a few weeks, and that he shouldn't have targeted me personally. He paid me for the 3 vehicles he worked on, and I let him know that I was willing to work with him. But if he ever spoke down to me again, there would not be a do-over. I would leave. He also inquired about buying his own tools. He's not a bad dude, just a little anxious, I guess. I suppose I will stick around for a little, as the paychecks are worth it, and the drive is convenient, and I have a wife and a house to pay for. As for some of the responses, yes, I am somewhat of a slob with my toolbox, but I also average 10-15 cars a day, so I don't always have time or the drive to neatly organize my tools daily. He said he will be bringing his toolbox from home and calling or texting to ask to borrow before borrowing. I guess I am somewhat of a rare mechanic, as I don't mind people borrowing my tools as long as they are put back. Also, the empty toolbox comments, I own all 4 of my toolboxes, so they would be coming with me if I left. Thanks for the support, guys. Seems like maliciously complying paid off for once. Next story. Homeowners Associations receives a check for all fines. Short history. Fall 2005, So and I buy our first house together. We're happy. Baby's on the way. House is cute and in a new subdivision homeowners associations just formed. We're at the end of a blunt cul-de-sac, quiet, no traffic. Neighbors nice. 3-ish years later, the US economy crapped the bed and wiped with the drapes. Over half of the homes in our subdivision have been foreclosed on or are in the process. Me and mine aren't paying on our mortgage. We've moved out, and a family friend and his family have moved in. They lost their house. He pays me a discounted rent. I'm not paying the mortgage, but maintaining the house with his rent. The homeowners associations is having troubles maintaining the common areas and keeping things clean because of lack of funds. Junky cars and de-adding landscaping are everywhere. One home burned to its foundation. A few months after my friend moves in, red, fire lane paint is applied to the curbs of all the cul-de-sacs in the subdivision. I'm furious because it prevents street parking in front of the house. Anytime I need to stop by to fix something or my tenant has a guest, we must park in front of a neighbor's house or in the common collector streets and walk in. I call the local fire department to ask why they need so many fire lanes, seeing how there were no hydrants nearby. They told me they hadn't requested additional fire lanes, nor had they asked for curbs to be painted. They said anyone can just paint a curb red. It's the signage or a hydrant's presence that makes it a legal fire lane. The paint's just there to help you interpret the signage. I check and sure enough, no signs. Come to find out it's a ploy by the homeowners associations to drum up more funds. If they paint curbs red and call it a safety zone, thereby laws allow them to fine a homeowner for violating the safety zone. Funny also that the homeowners association's president lives at the end of one of the cul-de-sacs, and now the neighbors can no longer park in front of her house without getting safety zone fines. One evening, just past twilight, wearing a high-vis vest, safety glasses, and work boots, I paint over the red curb with boring gray paint, specifically designed for concrete with great coverage. I do the entire cul-de-sac. 3 weeks later, it's red again. 2 days later, gray. 5 weeks, red. Then gray with silicone top sealer. Then red, that flakes off almost immediately. Then red again, flakes. Then a sign that reads, Safety Zone No Parking. For lack of payment, the home is now under notification of foreclosure, and I'm working with an agency to help navigate and file all the paperwork needed so we can short sell. Short selling in this context means that although we promised to pay the bank $350,000 plus interest for the house, they'd forgive any amount we own as long as we turn the house over in good condition, for example, not flush concrete down the toilets or poke pinholes in the water pipes, which screws us, but it's better than owing $350,000 on a house worth only $165,000 that will be legally taken from us in short order. F.U. Reagan, I'm still waiting for that trickle. During a short sale, you're required to notify any potential parties that could have liens on the house. This includes the homeowners associations. I'm up to date on my dues and have no outstanding violations, so I think I'm in the clear. But no, the homeowners associations suddenly comes up with a whole list of violations that haven't been addressed or remedied for 5 months, plus additional fines for the delay. The homeowners association said they notified me in November, but can't seem to produce copies of these multiple notices of violation. They only have the current one in March listing all the outstanding violations. Examples: black stains on driveway, uncoiled garden hose, unapproved tree, missing bush, missing foliage, dead tree. I informed them that the stains were tire marks from driving into the garage. The unapproved tree they did, in fact, approve. The missing bushes they approved the removal. Here's a copy of the plan and your approvals with your name on it. It's not my fault you don't know what you approved. The dead tree. Many trees tend to lose leaves in the fall, like around November. They might look dead if you're just making up violations in February, but are just dormant and waiting for spring. Even if it was dead, you can't replace a tree in November, December, January, or February. No nurseries sell saplings that late in the season, unless you want a Yuletide tree. How can someone be reasonably expected to replace a dead tree in the off-season? The homeowners association's delays responding, and the short sale is on a timer. If I don't have all legal items, payments for liens, and documents into the escrow officer by date, my short sale will fall through and I'll owe $350 zillions plus interest on a $165,000 house that's soon to be foreclosed on. The homeowners association's fines and fees total $1,955, $45 short of where felony fraud starts. I'm furious. This homeowners associations is gonna F me one last time, and I'll pay for the experience. So I talk to the escrow officer and see what she needs. Only the money for the homeowners association's lien, and you'll close escrow tomorrow. She's seen reams of these come through with similar amounts of fines requested by homeowners associations that hold up short sales. None exceed $2,000. I ask her what form of payment will satisfy her as an escrow officer. Money order, cash, or check? A check would be easiest for you, don't you think? If I write a check to homeowners associations for $1,955, then hand it to you, that'll satisfy escrow. Yep. You'll mail the check to homeowners associations after the documents record? Yes. You'll have a check in 25 minutes. The next day. On the phone with the escrow officer. Sitting in my car in a parking lot. 9:01 am. Did the documents record? Did the short sale go through? Yes. I'll mail out finalized documents and any other items before close of business today. Thank you. Hang up. I walk into the local branch of my bank and inform the teller. I need to place a stop payment on a check. Edit, my bad. I didn't include the Fallout Rule 7. Here goes. And homeowners associations never tried to collect or contact us again. Next story. Whatever you do, don't speak French. This happened in school when I was around 15. It was in a French-speaking region, and my English class had a very strict but somewhat sassy teacher, Miss Jones. The one golden rule was, no French. You had to speak in English no matter what except emergencies, of course. Miss Jones wasn't messing around, but she had a sense of humor. For example, one day, during recess, someone wrote on the board, "Miss Jones is a beach." When she saw it, she started screaming, "What is wrong with you? I'm not a beach, I'm a bi*ch." Then she spelled correctly the word and wrote it on the board. She added, "Besides, it's not a bad thing, it stands for a babe in total control of herself." One day, in class, Miss Jones mentioned war, and a student didn't know what that word meant. So Miss Jones starts explaining it in English. The student doesn't get it. Other students pitch in, still in English, to no result. This goes on for some time. I get fed up and say, "This is a waste of time. Can we just translate the word in French and move on?" Miss Jones answers, "Well, if you're so smart, why don't you explain what it means? And no French." Alright, I start making pow-pow noises, explosions, imitating warplanes, the whole deal. It takes 3 seconds to the student to yell, "I get it." Next story. Dirty uniforms are fine, then we wearing them. For context, I am working in a Ike Engine Components manufacturing MNC Tier 1 company as a shift in charge for machine shop. And our uniform is white shirt and dark blue pants. In a machine shop environment, shirt will get dirty easily and company will provide only 2 shirts per year. We have raised concerns many times, and as a corporate culture, nothing has changed. One day I am troubleshooting on machine, one of the hydraulic lines got a leakage and oil squirted all over. My shirt became soaked in oil. I have only 2 shirts, and next day I asked admin team for an extra pair. They have not seen the condition of my shirt, told me, "Some oil stain is not an issue, still you can wear it, blah blah. And we can't provide additional shirt as we don't have budget." Malicious compliance. Following week, our CEO and managers from head office coming to visit, and admin team announced everyone to be disciplined. So me and coworkers discussed and made a plan. On the day of CEO visit, we came in with dirtiest uniforms. All have heavy oil and grease stains. Some of them are not at all white due to stain. One of the admin managers seen us and asked and made a fuss. I replied with your team only told us oil stains in the uniform is not at all a concern. He immediately called that person and we all got shirts within 5 minutes. Next story. 16-year-old assigned to community service of picking up garbage. I was a troublesome teenager who committed a minuscule crime and ended up with court-assigned community service completely guilty. Community service was a way to take your punishment without a permanent record. The task was to collect trash in the town on foot and return to the site at Zai's time with a full bag and no empties remaining. Instructions unclear. Proceeded to pick up trash to and from my friend's house with a healthy 6-hour respite and left the spare bags for his family to use. Completely missed the point of community service. However, I felt like quite the clever degen at the time. Fast forward 2 decades later, and I'm a constant garbage picker-upper while walking the dog. Next story. Include questions from students. About 20 years ago, I studied to become a physics teacher. As a part of our curriculum, we had a thing called Didactics Lab. It was a lab where they had some basic devices such as electrostatic machines, pneumatic bench, simple toys, and tools. The drill was that 1 week we were preparing some experiments and planning a lesson, and the next week actual school children would come and we would present our experiments to them and teach them physics. The lab was run by an older professor who was pretty laid back and a young PhD candidate who was doing everything to show us how important she is. As a part of our preparation week, we had to prepare lesson plan, in which we would indicate our aims, our methods, and predicted outcome. This is what teachers do in regular work, and as my mom was a teacher, I was familiar with the format, so I was simply writing everything as required, including a brief description of the lesson like, teacher present the experiment and explains the science behind, then answers questions from the students, etc. The PhD candidate thought this is not enough and demanded that I write much more detailed plan, including the exact questions the student will ask. I told her it's impossible, because I can't predict what questions will be asked. She told me to extrapolate on the basis of the questions asked by students during previous classes. So I did. My next lesson plan looked as follows. Teacher switches the electrostatic machine on. Girls are screaming. Boys are laughing at them. One of the boys throws a paper ball at the girls. His pals laugh. The girls are outraged and demand for a teacher to do something. One of the girls asks, "Do you really want to be a teacher? My mom says their pay is crap." Another boy examines the equipment sitting on the shelf and says, "My neighbor has a basement full of such electric crap. What do you think he might need it all for?" The teacher tries to conduct the experiment. He is interrupted by a girl announcing, "My auntie is a physics teacher as well, but she lives in another town." One of the boys asks if he can go to the toilet. And so on and so forth. It was like 10 pages long instead of usual page or 2. The PhD candidate was outraged and told me those are stupid questions that no student would ever ask and I should write only the smart questions. I told her she told me to extrapolate on the basis of previous interactions with the students and the questions and students' behavior already happened to me at least once. She sent me to the laid-back professor, who read my whole plan chuckling all the way and told her that I obviously understand kids already so I don't have to write my lessons plans anymore, apart from 1 page of brief description of the experiment I planned. The PhD candidate was avoiding me for the rest of the class, but I got a good note in the end. Next story. So, you want me to get married? Not my story, but I was present ages ago at the wedding in question. This young woman becomes pregnant with a partner with whom she lived. The Catholic mother takes a dim view of this and is probably a little afraid of what will people say. The mother therefore urges her daughter to get married and ends up threatening to disinherit her. So she organized her wedding. The civil marriage took place relatively normally, but once at the Catholic Church, she invited her zealous pastor uncle, with whom her mother no longer wanted to talk about faith, to give a mini preach in addition to that of the priest and chose evangelical songs that obviously no one knew. At the exit of the church, I don't know how she managed to put this together, but she told me a few years later that she chose the priest specifically because of it. 2 police officers were waiting for the priest because he was under investigation for acts of pedophilia. After the photos, she arrived at the meal with the bottom of her wedding dress completely soiled. I even wonder if she served contaminated seafood because people at the parents' table ended up sick. She was not disinherited. Edit, she's still happily married. Next story. Perverted radio station manager wants me to censor music? I worked at a prominent local radio station in the early 2000s. I had to program the broadcast and censor music. It was a chump change job, and I only worked a few hours a week. I could be on call though. My manager turned out to be a sleaze. He'd slap the private parts of our lady staff members. I didn't like his behavior, so I decided to give his perverted mind some joy. I was going to move after graduating college. We played a lot of songs with cussing. I was told to censor all music on my very first day. On my final day, I censored all the cussing parts, not with a beep or a silence, but with moaning and other questionable noises instead. I got a few angry texts from him saying that he had to close the radio station for a day to fix things up, and that it was fine to leave a job. But I don't see what compelled you to do this as your final act. I hope you guys like this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe the channel. Our posts